Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wrestling Royalty. Welcome to Give Me a Hell Yeah. Thank you very much for joining us, and happy Halloween. As you might have guessed, we were a little bit late, so my sincere apologies. It seems like the ghosts of Halloween managed to infiltrate our tech tonight. We're having a little bit of trouble because I wanted to make sure you guys have something to look at, and not just me. That's why I was a little bit late, because I had the PowerPoint presentation ready to go, and then it just didn't work. So we are all good now. We are going to be getting going. We're going to be talking about Crown Jewel, which is on in a couple of days' time. So wherever you are in the world, it seems like it is going to be a slightly nicer time for everyone than usual as well, because these Saudi shows they do lend themselves well to the UK crowds, and I know for the US it's a lot earlier on in the day, but I appreciate that it is, for most people, a nicer time to watch a premium live event or a pay-per-view, whichever one you talk about. So I hope you're having lots of candy, lots of sweets, etc. tonight, as it is, of course, Halloween. So I really do appreciate you joining. I can see there's a couple of people who've been in. Of course, our trusty moderator Mark is in. Daz Reynolds said, "Who was the host tonight, please?" Well, I hope you're not disappointed that it was me. I don't know who you were expecting or hoping for. Hopefully it was me, but here I am. We're doing a Thursday night feature tonight because it's a very early start, as I say, on Saturday, and I wanted to make sure you guys had some time to have a chat about Crown Jewel and everything that's going on in WWE at the moment. So lots of news. Obviously, we saw the big news this week that WWE is linked up with a load of independent promotions over in America, which seems to be setting social media alight, and lots of people say it's good, lots of people say it's bad. So yeah, lots of different things going on. So what have we got in? Madman Max. Hello, me and my dark face. Would love to say hello. Hello to you, and thank you very much for joining. We've got Dean in from Scenescape Shop, who's eating all of his snacks, staring at the logo screen. My apologies, Dean. That's not. I don't think that's true, because I know how many snacks you tend to have. So I don't think you'll have eaten all of them. But I don't know if this is the sort of the smaller snacks before you get to the event on Saturday. So yeah, we'll see what's going on. He says, "I'm getting a Burger King for Crown Jewel, with it being earlier. I think there's enough time between the match and the wrestling for me to grab it." Quite possibly. Quite possibly. Jake's in as well. Hello, mate. I hope you're good. I hope you're having a good Halloween and you're looking forward to the weekend as well. Lots to go through. So without further ado, let's throw this up, because this is why I was late. I was making sure you guys had something to look at, and I said, I don't want you. I know it's Halloween, and I know you want to be scared. This ain't the one that you want to be scared by, though. So I wanted to make sure you had something better than that to look at. So here we go. We're going to kick things off. And also, I don't know if anyone's excited. It's not just a 5-match card at Crown Jewel. There's a whopping 7 matches on the card. And I'm very excited about it. Even though, for some reason, on this particular one, Lash Legend, why did they just colour in her skin rather than get her to have like a render where she's wearing something that the Saudis would find appropriate? It's very strange. Or there are ways that they could have done that instead, but no, they decided to make her look weirdly like a sort of genie out of Aladdin, and just change the color of her skin there. Very, very strange. Anyway, we're going to kick things off here. It's a fatal 4-way tag team championship match, the women's tag team championships. Shock horror, WWE go overseas and they put the women's tag team championships on the line. Seems to be a reoccurring theme, but it's a great way to have a lot of the women featured. So we've got Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson. If you're not too kind of familiar, they have been popping up on Raw, have been popping up on SmackDown as well. But they are obviously from NXT. They were sort of running buddies with Noam Dar. They were in the Metaphor, but now they seem to be, kind of, rather than being drafted across there, they've just kind of naturally gone through as a tag team that's now challenging for Jade and Bianca's tag team championships. We've also got Piper Niven and the ever popular Chelsea Green will be there as well. And Damage Control, we're going to be Io Sky getting a lot of plaudits at the moment for some of her matches that she's had. So there seems to be a lot of push for Damage Control to potentially be the ones who capture the belts here. But always fun to have multi-team matches. Obviously, we've seen Jade and Bianca have been kind of going strong, and they're I think they're 2-time tag team champions now. I'm sure someone can kind of pull me up on that if they've had more than that. My apologies if they had. But they're doing a little bit more focus on these tag team championships, which is a lot better than we've seen in the past when it comes to WWE. These have previously been somewhat of an afterthought, but I personally get the opinion that that they are putting a little bit more stock in it and making them a little bit more prestigious. And it's great to have them featured on a card because, as we've said before on different streams, tag team championship, tag team wrestling in general doesn't seem to get a lot of time on these premium live events. So to have this, these tag team championships on the line, fantastic. Let me know in the comments, who do you think is going to win this one? I think this is probably going to be another retention. Or will they finally see the much mooted split of Jade and Bianca, and will someone finally turn on someone? There seems to be a lot more jeopardy, a lot more storylines behind a lot of this Crown Jewel card. So it'd be really interesting to see how long they get, and will all four teams kind of get a chance to shine? How will the crowd kind of receive this? But yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I think there's a lot more momentum behind Damage Control. I know obviously that it's not ideal that they've had a couple of injuries, with Dakota Kai especially, and as well as Oscar as well. But there's a lot of momentum on, especially Raw seems to be behind Damage Control. Chelsea Green's been doing some fantastic stuff over on SmackDown as well. So I think she deserves some sort of reward. But having this many women in the match also, once again, proves that, to me, WWE should really be introducing some sort of women's mid-card title, the equivalent of an IC or a US, but make it its own thing. So I'd be keen to see that. I say this is lots and lots of talent on the card. If you look at NXT these days, there's so much that's going to be coming through over the next couple of years as well. So the women's roster is getting stacked. They just need to make sure they're using it properly. And for now, great tag team championship match. But I want to see a little bit more shine on individual and singles women's tag team titles as well. Mark, our moderator, says, I think Bianca and Jade are going to lose them. And Daz agrees and says Damage Control, he thinks. So, yeah, interesting. No one so far has gone for Bianca and Jade to retain. I find it strange as well, in a day and age where everyone seems to get some sort of tag team name. They've never really given these two a name together. So if you want to give them christen them a name, feel free. Put one in the comments. I'd love to hear your suggestions as to what they should be calling themselves. Or is that basically because they are just waiting to split it up? So that might be why. But we'll see. We'll see. Moving on, we have got another championship match, and this time it's the US Championship, LA Knights Championship. Actually, I should be calling that. And he's going to be going up against Carmelo Hayes and Andrade as well. So we've had a best of 7 match between Andrade and Carmelo Hayes. Back and forward, they've traded wins, traded losses. It's been very entertaining to kind of watch these build up a big rivalry. And I think, the way that they've kind of done it, they've shown 50-50 booking can work. They've tried these kind of best of 7 series before, most notably when it was like Sheamus versus Cesaro. This one, they've had the graphics. They've kind of really put in a lot of effort to show you this is a rivalry you should be watching. Very good talent. And then they kind of threw LA Knight in there as well because, these are guys who should be pushing up for the US Championship and kind of going up before you then push on to the upper echelon. And can you face Cody Rhodes? But for now, I think this is the perfect spot for these 3 guys in particular. And as Mark says, LA Knight, I think, he's been a steady champion. Taking it off Logan Paul was never going to be a sort of easy thing because Logan Paul obviously has that social media presence and carries that belt around, has it on his podcast, etc. LA Knight, much more steeped in the wrestling itself and then kind of being entertaining. I don't think he's been a bad champion by any means. I just think this is the kind of time that he needs to step up and show people why he's the champion, why he deserved to have that belt in the first place, and kind of repay that faith, I guess, that WWE have shown in him and made him the US Championship, because this is what everyone wanted. So I think he's been a bit more entertaining than people were maybe thinking he was going to be. And yeah, getting involved with these, I think, is the right one as well. Jake says, I feel like Triple H doesn't have enough pay-per-view matches, while Vince tended to have too much. Vince would tend to have like 9 matches. Triple H tends to have 5. Like I say, I feel like 7 is the perfect number. Yeah, I agree. But I also think there's going to be times where 5 is probably the better number because you give enough time to every single match. Now, when they go to Netflix, they're not going to be kind of beholden to any kind of time frames. I presume when it's live, people are going to be tuned in. There's no like schedule that they have to then stick to and be handing over to. AEW has the Big Bang Theory on before it, etc., and gets that sort of run off, but they won't be beholden to that when it moves across. So it'll be interesting to see how many matches they do put on cards and how many matches they do have on Raw and things like that. So watch this space and see what they end up landing on. Maybe it's just a number that changes fluidly, and I think that would be right. So if they can go, let's have 5 matches on the Rumble because 2 of them are the Rumble matches, and then we want a few championship matches on there as well, or Elimination Chamber comes around, and actually it makes more sense to have 6 because we've got a lot of red hot storylines at the moment. Fine, just do what you need to do and be flexible about it. So I'm glad they've got 7 on, because there's stories behind each of these. You will get to the championship matches, the Saudi championship matches, Crown Jewel, etc. But as long as there's heat behind the stories, this is where they should be. And I think there's a couple of storylines that they could have even put on here, but they're not going to. So good to see a lot more going behind it. So yeah, we saw LA Knight was the sort of special guest referee. Shenanigans followed on SmackDown, and kind of getting that clear winner. I don't think you were ever going to get that as soon as he was announced as the special guest referee. You knew it was somehow leading on to the 3 of them all going head to head. But yeah, I'm going to go. I think LA Knight has to retain here. I think it's really important for his momentum to kind of keep pushing on and keep the crowd warm. But I'll be interested to see who takes the pin here, because normally when you have triple threats, because someone else is trying to be protected, maybe we do get a swerve. Maybe we get a Carmelo Hayes championship reign or something, and kind of boost him on and then push him onto the sort of next level himself. Norma's joined the chat. Thank you very much for joining. I think Knight is headed towards the dark side, so he wins by cheating. We could say the good thing about LA Knight is he's kind of like the perfect tweener where he can shift between the two. So it'll be really interesting to know if he, how good a champion he can be as a face, how good a champion he can be as a heel. So I have a theory that a lot of faces make bad champions because it's all about the chase. Now, I don't think that's true for LA Knight, because he's got that kind of charisma and, the Kavorka, as he would say. So I think you've got to allow him a little bit of time to find his lane as the champion and see what he can do with it. So I'm going to go for an LA Knight win here. Let me know in the comments what you think. Don't worry about it, Mark. If you messed up the polls, we'll move on and I'll keep talking. Here we go. Here's one of the big storylines. As we talked about, there's some very hot storylines going in here. I love the way that they've kind of built this storyline together. Kevin Owens versus Randy Orton. We saw Randy Orton last week kind of have a bit of a exchange of words with Triple H and calling him out, asking him why this match wasn't being put on. Almost kind of calling his bluff, calling him out to say, why are you protecting him from me? And Triple H responding, actually, there's something snapped in Kevin Owens, and he doesn't kind of trust what Kevin Owens could do. I think this is the perfect spot for Kevin Owens. I think when you get a new contract and you had the championship matches and you don't get that championship, and not everyone can be a champion, what do you want most out of that? Well, you want a good storyline. You want to be featured heavily, and you want a storyline that people are talking about. Now, attacking Cody Rhodes backstage and having all the fans kind of film it and things like that, really cool. In 2024, that's the way that some rivalries should be started. I'm surprised it's kind of taken that long for WWE or anyone really to kind of twig on and do that side of things and kind of make it hopefully go a little bit viral, but then keeping him off and kind of having that heat that people are scared, because Kevin Owens has always been this prize fighter. He's always been ruthless. Like, go back to his NXT days where he stabbed Sammy in the back as soon as he won the championship, and doing those moments where people are like, oh my god, Kevin Owens is lethal, like doing those power bombs on the hardest part of the ring, on the ring apron, and things like that. And like, who can ever forget him stabbing Chris Jericho in the back? So to see this evolution of Kevin Owens, where he'd been the good guy, he'd been paying his dues, he'd been like having people's backs, and like buddying up with Randy, buddying up with Cody, and then seeing things his way, and then and thinking, oh, I'm doing the right thing, only to then see it all fall apart because people easily forget. And he's the one person in wrestling who doesn't forget. He's got a long-term memory. Why is Cody, tag teaming with Roman? Why was I not the one he chose? Like, am I not good enough? I think it's actually giving very realistic thoughts and thought processes to wrestlers, which we haven't really seen before. It's always storyline and illogical thinking, but we kind of go with it because it's entertaining. But Kevin Owens seems to be very sharp of mind. Now, I'm interested. I think Kevin Owens wins this, and I think he wins it quite brutally as well. Personally, if I was booking this, I would have Kevin Owens absolutely destroy Randy Orton to the point where everyone's kind of a little bit uncomfortable about it, because I think you need to make Kevin Owens into that sort of like proper killer Kevin Owens that we've seen in the past. So I want to see, that side of Kevin Owens come back. I want to see Randy Orton kind of like try and coax out that good guy in him again, and then realize that this isn't the same Kevin Owens he used to tag team with. So to me, that's what I want to see from this match. I think the build has been fantastic. I think it's the one that you really want to see. I think this is the one that most people are going to be tuning in, wanting to see, other than probably the Bloodline storyline, to continue to see where that's going too. A couple more comments in there. We've got the Alpha Ginger. Hello, the big Alpha is here. Good to have you in on this Halloween night. Thank you very much for joining us. We've got Daz Reynolds saying again he's got his prediction in. Kevin for the win. Another person going for Kevin. Norma, Kevin builds his heel status with a brutal win. Completely agree with you, Norma. I think that's the only way that they should be handling that one, is give Kevin Owens a chance to absolutely dismantle someone who is a big fan favorite, a legend already. Have that, and then you can kind of have Randy Orton come back and get a little bit of retribution at some point. But I need to see Kevin Owens have that brutal streak back in him. Speaking of brutal streaks, we've also had a bit of a bitter rivalry between Seth Rollins and Big Bronson Reed as well in recent weeks. They've had a lot of interaction backstage. We had that awesome moment where Big Bronson Reed, I don't want to call him big every time, but Bronson Reed did all those tsunami splashes onto Seth Rollins. I loved hearing his interviews that he did after that, saying, it wasn't the original plan to do that many, but they kind of just felt that the crowd was thinking, oh my God, what's happening? I think Seth Rollins being in this position to help some of the sort of the next level to step up, and can they kind of go toe to toe with someone who now is probably one of the legends or future legends of WWE. I think Seth Rollins is now going to kind of like turn into this kind of space of, I don't know, not the gatekeeper, but someone who's obviously there to be shot at because he's revered by the roster. And if you kind of take a shot at Seth Rollins, it's a statement. I think that's what Bronson Reed's been doing here. It's been a good year for Bronson Reed. He obviously got left off of a couple of premium live events. He missed it because of, I think he had the birth of his child or something as well. But since then, he's kind of built himself up with this Braun Strowman rivalry that he had, and then he'll go straight into a Seth Rollins one. I think that's a great spot for him to be in. He's a legit big guy, but he can, he's got that lethal tsunami, and just kind of have him just destroy people like you used to, like back in the day, where you'd have a lot more of these kind of backstage segments where they'd go out and throw people through ambulances or onto the hoods of the cars and stuff like that. So yeah, really want to see more of Bronson Reed moving forward. But I think potentially this is one way you give Crown Jewel and the Saudi fans a face win. So I think Seth Rollins will win, but I think it'll be kind of by the skin of his teeth. And I think there'll be some sort of begrudging respect that he shows him at the end, potentially. So watch this space. I expect this. I thought they might have given some sort of stipulation to this match, and it might have got a gimmick match of like some sort of street fight, or like a Saudi street fight, where they kind of go through the crowd. That could still happen, but I thought we might have had it sort of like in storyline where we get to see some sort of brutality to a degree, but maybe it's not the time or place. Maybe people wouldn't find that sort of respectful in the area that they are in, but it would have been nice if some sort of stipulation was there too, because when we see them throwing each other through cars and on off the lorries, etc., I thought there'd be a little bit more to it personally, but looking forward to an official match anyway. Mixed bag here. Bronson for Mark. Norma says, I hope Seth wins and uses the win to start a drive towards getting the belt from Gunther. Can't imagine anything better than a Gunther Rollins feud. Sign me up. I'd love that. Like we kind of had it teased, didn't we, last year in the build up to Mania, and like kind of who was going up against each other. Like Gunther introduced himself officially to Seth, and kind of said at some point, "Our paths will cross." And he kind of wanted to stake his claim for the championship as well, while Cody was sort of deciding or in storyline dithering on. Daz says Seth to win on this one. Mark, Julia's favourite candy, according to her on WWE socials, is cough drops. Yeah, okay. I wouldn't call that a candy, but if that's what she likes, who am I to complain? Because I think Julia is absolutely fantastic. If you haven't seen this week's NXT, go watch NXT, because the women's segment that they had, wow, the women's roster is in good nick moving forward, both in NXT and in future years in WWE as well. Can't wait to see Stephanie, Becca, and Julia move up. It looks like Jordan Grace is probably signed as well. And that's before you even get into the sort of the more NXT, not homegrown, because obviously Roxy was elsewhere in TNA before that. But yeah, seeing Cora Jade and that side of things, I think that's the future is very bright, very bright. Yeah, let's move on. We've got. Also, I love the fact that the table just absolutely exploded when they did this spot on Monday. So, yeah, really cool spot. First of two matches that is going to be champion versus champion. It's going to crown the first ever Crown Jewel champion. I don't know if they're not calling it the women's Crown Jewel champion, and it's just Crown Jewel champion by the looks of it. We've got Nia Jax versus Liv Morgan. Compared to the men's, which we'll get to, I think it's next I've got it lined up for. Compared to the men's one, they haven't had as much of a build here. They haven't had them interacting every week on Raw or SmackDown, but they've been doing enough to kind of build that intrigue. They've both had storylines elsewhere. Liv, obviously, everything with Dom, and then kind of going in with the Rhea Ripley stuff. It was interesting to see that they wrote off Rhea Ripley on NXT and had them kind of like attacked, etc. So very interesting to see that they did that. There obviously was a little bit of haste that they needed to put that out into the public, where they've kind of gone down the line of Rhea Ripley's had I think it's orbital bone fractured or shattered or something. So yeah, very interesting to see how long Rhea is going to be kept away for. Kind of rumors that they're going to have a little bit of time away for her to heal up properly, and her shoulder's still not doing as well as they'd hoped, which is maybe why she hasn't been wrestling that much on sort of weekly TV. But it does seem that like something's going on. I'm not 100% sure what the official injury is. I don't think it is the orbital bone. I think that was obviously something that they kind of like scheduled in to kind of write her off for a little bit. But watch that space. It could be anything. And a lot of people predicting Rhea Ripley to win the Royal Rumble again. So would you want to see that? Are you wanting to see this continuation of Liv Morgan, or do you want to, and Rhea Ripley, or do you want to see Liv move on to different things? I'm interested to see how they play this one out, because they could have a big moment here where Tiffany Stratton decides to cash in, and she could kind of get one of the belts here, because hey, she's there and kind of like ready to go. And it'd be interesting to see if there's some way of her walking out and Nia walking out, or her and Liv walking out with different belts. It'd be really interesting to see if they would play it into this one. We've also got a lot of stuff going on with Liv that, and kind of moving on from Rhea now. Like, where does she go? Obviously, I don't think Rhea will be flying across to Saudi if she is legitimately injured. Otherwise, what was the point of doing that angle? So I think Liv's winning here. I think she needs it a little bit more than Nia does. Nia is obviously carrying that belt over on SmackDown and very much embroiled in the stuff of will she, won't she, with the Money in the Bank briefcase. So I just think this is going to be a Liv Morgan win, personally. Which Sarah agrees with. Says Liv Morgan win. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. The big dosser, Tyson Fury's in. Jake is an MMA fighter and used to be a bare knuckle boxer, so he has a point. But I'm the alpha because I'm the undisputed champion of the world and was robbed against Usyk. It's a great gimmick. I'd love that to be legitimately Tyson Fury, but I appreciate him joining most weeks as well. But as I said, I think Liv Morgan's going to win this one. There's not as much to say here as there is with the Cody one, I think, because this is just a kind of what we used to get at Survivor Series, where it's champion versus champion, just to kind of prove who's more dominant. And then you get a big shiny belt, which for some reason WWE has been given the white glove treatment to, and everything like that. So I would be surprised if this isn't a moment to kind of boost Liv's standing and just kind of have another belt, presuming that we'll never see outside anyway. Outside of Saudi either. Mark agrees, yeah, Liv needs to win more. Daz says retain. So I'm not sure it's retain because it's a new belt for both of them. So let me know. Who do you mean, Daz? Who's going to win? Yeah, let's move on to the second one. We've got the next first ever Crown Jewel champion, which is going to see Cody Rhodes versus Gunther. Now, we have seen a lot more of these two clashing in the ring where we have actually had some physicality as well. I know obviously they had a tag team match where Liv and Nia kind of got involved together as well. But here we've had a lot of exchanging of words. Gunther playing that kind of like, I don't know what I'm allowed to say on YouTube, crap-eating grin. And yeah, I think it's been a one that really shows off the strengths and the weaknesses of both, because Gunther, I think, is becoming a lot more confident in his heel role in the microphone. How he plays with the crowd, I think, has improved over the last sort of 6 months or so. And, you know, there's a lot of speculation as to exactly what could happen here, because we've got Kevin Owens and Randy Orton going on. So will Kevin Owens kind of cost Cody Rhodes? And we'll go back to a little bit of that to finish off the year. We've got a lot of speculation that maybe Gunther is going to be attacked by Goldberg. And you know, they exchanged words at the last Premium Live, was it? Last Premium Live event, I think it was, that they kind of exchanged words, and Goldberg had to be led away. I'm really interested to know if you guys would actually want to see Gunther versus Goldberg in 2024. You know, Gunther's very, very good at what he does, but is he good enough to pull out an amazing match from Goldberg? Many have tried, many have failed. So it would be interesting to see if he's the one who can actually pull out an absolute banger of a match with Goldberg. But I have a feeling it'd be more just big hits, and that's about it. So I think unless Goldberg is wanting to be retired by someone, I really don't see what anyone gains from that, especially not Gunther. So it'd be interesting to know where we're at with that. I personally, again, I think to legitimize a lot of the questions and a lot of the standing that people have kind of put Cody in, I think Cody's got to win this. I think he's desperately needs to win this. I think he needs to kind of show off that he is the face of WWE, and it's undisputed that he's the man who's going to keep carrying the company forward, and it's not Roman Reigns, and it's not him coming back in, etc. I think this is the moment that you need Cody to have a big win, because it's odd that even as a champion, it would be something of an upset if Cody was to win this. He's got to go into this as the underdog just because of how dominant Gunther is in the ring. So I'm excited to see these two go to head-to-head. I think this would be a fantastic match. I think this could be the best wrestling match of the night. And I really hope they put in the work on that side of things. But it'd be interesting to see just how sort of screwy the finish is going to be, because you don't want either of your champions looking weak. So there's got to be some way that one of them is cost the victory, or isn't made to defeat. Let's see how we get on with that one. Both look very dapper in suits as well. So I like the line that that Gunther's been going down of like, then they asked me to do this stuff and I just say no, whereas you just say yes to everything because you're a patsy and you're a company man and like more sort of thing. So Gunther saying that he basically has the resolve of his own. So be really interested to see how he how they kind of keep continuing this afterwards. No matter who wins, I'd like them to kind of like not just forget about this rivalry. I want them to revisit it at some point as well and make sure that a lot of the lines are kind of like tread back across. So yeah, I'm going to go Cody on that one. And then what presumably will be the main event of the night. We've got the new Bloodline, or Bloodline. They're not calling them anything other than the Bloodline so far. And then we've got this reformed Roman Reigns with both the Usos. There are spoilers for what happened on SmackDown that's coming up on Friday because it was taped last week. So if you don't want to know that, kind of turn away from social media because you will find out what happened. But we are going to get the three of them back together. On Raw, we saw a little bit of tension because we saw Sami Zayn talking to Jay, saying that how can you kind of get back into bed with these guys? It can be really interesting to see how Sami Zayn plays into this storyline moving forward, because there's a lot of presumption that he is going to be involved when it comes to War Games that will be at the end of the month, or end of November, sorry. So I'm intrigued to see how they're going to go around this, because you want to see that moment where Roman and Sami face off again, and like, how do they reconcile? Do they reconcile? Is there a possibility these rumors that Cody will be involved? Is The Rock going to be involved? Is The Rock going to be in Saudi Arabia? There's a lot of questions going into this one. I also want to question Jacob Fatu in that render. Looks like a proper, like, you know, when they put up the picture of like a Hall of Famer who's about to be inducted, it looks really old school because he's gone like full character there. But I really like how they've kind of progressed this. I thought I would be a little bit bored of it, but I do think they've done the right thing. It's been a little bit of a slow burn. They've made us wait for that kind of reconciliation between brothers. Then it's the reconciliation between cousins. Will we get the same again? Will we get like even just like a match or two? The one thing I do worry about is for Jey Uso. He's so popular. He's kind of got himself over with the crowd. You know, calling himself main event Jey Uso, but then at the first opportunity, you go running back to being a tag team and back to the family. I don't think speaks highly of where his future's going. Obviously, having the Intercontinental Championship for like 2 weeks isn't ideal. I would have loved to have seen him have that a little bit more. I kind of thought they might have gone down the route of the Jeff Hardy, Matt Hardy thing, where Jeff was the popular one and we keep moving forward with him. It doesn't appear so. It feels like we're kind of getting the band back together here full time. So yeah, interested to see where we go with this. I think the only way you can continue this rivalry in a story, though, is if the Bloodline get the victory. I think the numbers game's got to creep in, and they've got to realize that they're a man short. Do you introduce one more person here that helps the Bloodline, and we do get that 5-person versus 5-person in the War Games, or will it be 4v4? There's so much intrigue and so many questions around this match in particular that it's definitely going to main event, even with those championship matches on the line. I think there's so many things to go here. Dean already getting excited by the proposition that The Rock could be involved here. Will we see that? We obviously saw him come out and just do the kind of thing at the top of the stage. Grim Sim Lab says, how have they actually made a Crown Jewel kind of interesting? By, I guess, good booking and good storylines. They're not kind of shirking off and saying you're going to get the B matches, or we're going to throw together a couple of matches that don't really make sense. But it does feel like, yes, they've got those championship matches that don't really mean too much, but the prospect of having Cody versus Gunther is good enough to just sell, on that basis. And then kind of having that, we'll get Liv Morgan, we'll get Nia Jax as champion versus champion. That's kind of cool, I guess. But everything else, they've built over time, they've built it up, and people actually want to see the resolution. This match in particular kind of just caps it off with how much there is around it. So, yeah, really interesting to see how we go with this one. Normar Fatu almost has to go into singles match at some point. He's a great character. I absolutely loved that moment a couple of weeks back when we got Bron Breakker and Jacob Fatu having that face off. The crowd went nuts for it as well. That was like one of the moments recently. Like, I want to see more. I want to see that. Those guys just going toe to toe, big guys that can move, and just like powerful guys, but they can also like do things off the top rope. And I think the crowd just responded in a way going that this is a special moment. We could see this. There's been a lot of talk recently about how much weight Jacob Fatu lost going into WWE because he wanted to be as in shape as possible. I think he's got over with the crowd a lot quicker than they maybe expected. But yeah, I think it's really cool for Jacob Fatu as well, like having done a lot of the indies and elsewhere as well. So yeah, cool moment for him. And I'd love to see him probably in a role like Umaga used to have, where he could capture an IC title or a US title and just carry it, because he's just a monster. He's just a machine. And I think maybe give him a mouthpiece so he doesn't have to do too much talking himself, and keep him as just that wild card that either they can bring out for the Bloodline or just on his own. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see who is going to appear. How does that match finish? How are they going to set that up moving into Survivor Series War Games next month, or by the time this is actually happening at the end of that month, and then on to the Royal Rumble as well. So yeah, let's see where we go. Nice to have Roman Reigns back, and he's probably been back a little bit more than usual, in the sense of like his lighter schedule, but it's nice to have Roman back on. Things feel more important. They feel like things are bubbling away. I'm really interested to know what's going to happen at Mania, because obviously Cody's been almost teasing in the interview, saying if you think you know what's going to happen, I think you're going to be massively surprised by the direction it all goes in, and hopefully no one's disappointed. So we'll have to just keep watching to see where we go with this. Quite frankly, the roster is stacked at the moment. We're rapidly approaching Rumble season, which means we'll rapidly approach the road to WrestleMania. So yeah, a lot of things kind of going on at the moment. I know everyone has their opinion on what they want to see at WrestleMania in Las Vegas as well. So keep those comments coming in. Love to hear it this far out and see how close we are. If you haven't watched it, go back and watch mine and Sam's predictions as to what we think is going to be on there. That's a good video to go back and watch. But yeah, that's going to be the main event. So I'm really excited to see Crown Jewel. I hope you guys are as well. I hope this video has got you a little bit excited for it as well. Let me know what your thoughts and predictions are if you're watching this after and you haven't joined the chat. Just leave them in the comments. We'll make sure we get back to you as well. But if you have been watching live, I really appreciate it as well, especially on this Halloween night when you should be watching horror films and eating far too much sweets and chocolate. So there is still time to go do that. So make sure you go and eat something for me as well. Have a fantastic weekend. I hope you've enjoyed this one. I've really enjoyed speaking to you guys and keeping that conversation going. And as always, this has been Gimme a Hell Yeah. This has been Wrestling Royalty. And I have been Andy. I'll catch you later, guys.